These past few episodes, I've been in the process of getting all the stuff needed to automatically make food from Farmer's Delight. One of the last things I need is to craft some bowls and bring them over to my restaurant. So after I built my freight train last week, it's time to build a train yard ready to move things across my world and build yet another new van to help bring items to the train yard ready for my train to whisk them away. Now, the first thing I think I want to do is try and address one of the issues I was having at the end of last episode, which was deciding what I wanted to do with all the tracks over here. I think what I'm going to do is actually completely change the layout of this so that we don't have so much track going up and down this hill. I will do that real quick. And there we go, that's more or less what I wanted for the layout. I added some extra tracks on the side here for any kind of extra platforms that I want, although I have been thinking of perhaps adding a little train depot here as well. But as for the turns back here, I decided to kind of make each track go in each different direction, just so that the curves can stay pretty big. But the next thing I want to do is I'm gonna place a quick train station down, doesn't matter where, and I'm going to make a quick basic train for pretty much exactly one purpose. That is to place some mechanical rollers on, because I want to make it a little bit easier to place down a bunch of tuff. And while I do have my mining drill over there that can do the same thing, I decided I should probably go with something that's maybe a little bit easier to drive around, because that one is very large. But if I place down some train controls, preferably in the right direction, and grab a bunch of tuff, which I went mining for earlier, and place it into our chests. And if we grab one and place it into our mechanical roller here, to do clear blocks and pave, when I actually activate this train, although let's make sure that I actually all glue it together first, that might help. When I assemble this train and get in, we can start paving underneath the railway tracks, which will make this a little bit easier to cover the ground and decorate the train yard. Although I should definitely slow the speed down just so it's not so jerky around. Now, of course, my inability to actually tell how much tuff I need greatly hindered how quickly I was able to do that. I've unfortunately run out of tuff, but I will go mining for some more and try and get the rest of this done. And there we go, there is all our tuff placed in. I have placed it underneath pretty much all the tracks in the train yard, with the exception of these tracks here, as I still haven't quite decided I want to put a depot here or not. Now, of course, I still gotta do some other things. I want to replace all this grass with a mixture of like dirt, well, coarse dirt, mud, a bit more tuff, and some grass and stuff, just to kind of make it look a bit more interesting and less plain. One of the kind of issues with doing these kinds of things for a video, that it's very time consuming, extremely boring to watch, but I gotta do it. I gotta make it look prettier. There has been so many cases in this series so far where I have half built something more or less and then left it kind of unfinished, just for the pure reason that I'm like, well, this thing is not gonna be very interesting to watch. And I don't necessarily have that much time to just quote unquote waste on prettifying something that's going to take me like potentially hours. But it got to a point with this one where I was like, I gotta do it. I just gotta do it. That's the kind of general mix of dirt that I want. And then I've harvested a bunch of these grasses to kind of place around so that it doesn't look too flat. Then I've also made a bunch of these spruce crates, which I'm kind of just going to kind of randomly place around just to kind of fill up some more of the space. And you know, considering this is a place where a bunch of freight and stuff is dropped off, it makes sense for there to be some crates around that perhaps need to be picked up still. And I just need to repeat that for these other parts. That's pretty much what I want. It's kind of wild how much better some mud and grass with a couple of crates can make an area like this look. It looks way more realistic than just the plain tuff and grass. Honestly, it's funny. My brain was like, oh, this will totally take me 5 hours to do. I think it took me like 30 minutes, an hour tops. I didn't quite track the time, but it certainly wasn't 5 hours. I'm really bad at telling how long things are going to take, unfortunately. Of course, I'm not actually done with this. I still need to fill in all these other gaps in between. I didn't record it, so I did get a lot more of the foliage done, or the general landscaping rather. We've added some bushes, obviously continued the mud and puff along the sides of the tracks, and I added a little bit of extra bit on the road here for trucks to actually turn around on. I need to actually create a truck and see if I can actually get a loop in here properly to make sure that it actually is big enough. But I think the first thing I want to do, and is a bit of a tangent, to come over to my wood farm here, because one of the things I do need from this wood farm is some bowls, and I don't currently craft those anywhere. And I was thinking of doing it over at my farm, but I think it would actually make more sense if I actually did it over at the lumber mill. I may add a little tiny factory here that's honestly just for that kind of thing, but I have been needing to kind of fix this wood farm anyway. I had to mostly turn it off, thanks to the fact that I'm pretty sure I have messed up a couple of things, particularly with these stock links, because I have like multiple stock links around. Pretty sure I don't need that. So I think I'm just going to go around and start picking up all of these stock links just so that I can set them all up again properly. But with the wood farm mostly sorted, I think I'm going to start planning out what I want here for my little mini bowl factory. I don't want it to be a massive building, just something that can make the bowls so that we can send them off to our farm area. So for the bowl factory, I used a bunch of chipped variants of stone for the main bottom floor, of which I did add some andesite later on, and then used some dark oak plank stairs and some metal girders to hold up the floor above. And then for the second floor, I used a mix of granite, pale oak logs, and calcite for the main structure of it, and then used some mangrove windows to kind of match the tree farm. Then I placed in some more girders for some more structure again, and then started working on the roofs, which I used a mix of deep slate and dark oak stairs again, and even threw in some moss stairs and moss blocks with some leaves on top, just to make it look a bit prettier, and then did the same thing for the big roof on top, as well as the smaller flat roof on the side. And there we go, that's more or less the exterior done. I did add a couple of little details like these parapets and some of this dark oak for the roof. But as for the inside, I've placed some ground down and lowered the pavement down so it kind of matches the road. And of course, I do want this to be a little mini factory. So what I'm going to do is, because bowls are actually only made possible through crafting, and I think I'm going to use these crafters from Create to do that. And I am going to do it slightly differently, where of course we only actually need these 3, but I'm going to add some additional ones along with a barrel here. Make sure that these face all the right way. And I do need to make some of these craft covers, which luckily are pretty cheap, so we'll grab a few of them. I need one here, and one here, because I'm going to essentially try and use some brass funnels on both the crafters and this barrel here. And I'll just cover this middle bit up. But it means that any kind of items coming through here will just go into this crafter, and as long as I have these covered, they won't actually input into those slots. Just so it's nice and fast and I don't have to use the arms. And we can make it a little bit prettier by putting some dark oak around it. And then I do want to take up some of the floor here and place these down underneath, as well as some barrels, some packages, and some frogs. And of course, these frogs are going to need to attach to something, so I'm going to place in some chain conveyors here and make sure those are hooked up. And then I do want to actually hook up to a system that actually has all the wood. So luckily, I can just come off of this chain conveyor over here and hook it up to this system. And I can even remove the frogs and actually attach them. We can call this one Bowl Factory. And luckily this one doesn't matter, as it's going to be mostly just dropping or sending packages. Now I do need to power this mechanical crafter. So what I may do is bring some power down from this conveyor and just bring it underneath. And luckily that's pretty simple to do. Bring some shafts and gearboxes around, and then just make sure that this one is facing up. That can come straight up and connect. Now, of course, this is now overstressed because this I think is still using the water wheels that I hid underneath over there. So it might be time to actually hook up the system to our power station. And luckily, of course, I can just copy the same kind of pylon design that I did over there, some more of these industrial iron chain conveyors, and make the final hookup to this new one over here. And that means everything is powered. Yeah, I think I am going to hook up these stock links again to the same system that the rest of the lumber mill is on. And actually we don't need this one, as that one's just purely an input, but we do need this one, as this is where our final destination for our bowls is going to be. Then I think I can once again grab some factory gauges. Honestly, it doesn't really matter where these go. Essentially, I'm probably going to use some spruce planks for this. And of course, make our bowls. We can attach our new connection and use mechanical crafting for this. We're going to send it to bowl factory, so let's make sure that we place that in to there. If I say I want, I don't know, let's say 8 of these, hopefully that should cool from the wood. And you can see it's coming through the system, goes in there, and I've just come to a sudden realization I need to actually come to the back of these and make sure that these are all actually attached to each other so that it works. So now we do have 8 bowls in here after it crafted those. And that seems to be all working how we want it to. Now, of course, we need to actually get these bowls over to my farm area, which is all the way over here. So we're going to need to put these bowls onto some form of truck and over to our train yard. So that means it's time to build another van. So the design for this truck is going to be a little bit similar to the one that I made over in my farm area, with the main exception being that it is going to be a little bit less wide. Some of you may remember last time when I was making the truck, I didn't take into account the tire width on the track underneath it. And so it had to be a bit wider than I would like. But for this one, I don't have to do that. So the design's going to look a little bit different, but more or less the same. That will probably be the general base. And you see it kind of actually fits properly in the middle of the road here. And this time I'm also going to use a red concrete. I'm going to throw in our grill like we did at the front last time. It is going to be a little bit smaller to match the slightly smaller frame of this truck. But we are going to keep using our copycat stairs to go over our tires, although I do actually need to fix these ones so that they don't connect up with them. And of course, we got to put our panel and the zipped iron bars in front to help make the grill look a little better. And then also place down a bunch of these panels for our front window. Which, funny enough, even though this is going to be a smaller truck, the windows I think are actually wider than the other design. Still want to have the wing mirrors on each side, so we throw up our half panels and do something similar as we did before. We have our weathered iron on top, and surrounded with some copycat steps and bites. We can then place our red concrete down for that red trim like we did for the other one. Once again, kind of place these vertical things that kind of almost look like exhaust pipes. And as for the back of this truck, I do want to place some more of these depots down so we can see the packages on them. And then because this also needs to transport lava, I'm also going to put in a fluid tank in the center of it. Because what I essentially want to do with this truck is to actually have a bit of a canopy over the top of it. So the design looks a little bit different from the other one. And of course, we're going to have our panels on top as well. Let's cover that all in our nice red concrete. And if we grab our buttons for our tires, throw on some factory gauges on the front and back with their respective lights, etc. Then that's pretty much what I wanted. I know it might look a little bit goofy for like the extra wide windows with the smaller grill up front, maybe looks a bit odd, but I still kind of like how it looks. Now, one thing I did actually forget to do, quickly remove this fluid tank for that. Place down a possible fluid interface, because we're going to need to able to transfer this tank directly into a separate system once we get to the train yard. Now I just need to more or less glue this all together. We can use some of these temporary blocks to make that slightly easier for us. There we go. And now I need to just actually place the track underneath this road so we can actually get this vehicle moving, and also probably build a roundabout over here so we can actually turn vehicles around. Okay, I've got all the tracks set up underneath, and I made my little roundabout that's not really quite a roundabout, but a turning point all the trucks and stuff. So the next thing to do is actually place down a train station here, temporarily at least, until we can actually create this. Hit create train, grab our glass panes, we'll place down our bogey. And I always remember this is not quite how it works. Hello, skeleton. Where did you even come from? Oh my god. Anyway, place the bogey down and then we can put our glass panes onto this and make sure to actually cover up that hole again. Before I glue it all together, I'm actually going to make sure I remove all the stone and stuff next to it so that it's a little bit less obvious. And of course we'll grab our glue, make sure that is all connected to the truck above, which it looks like it is. We'll throw in our train controls and seat. If I assemble the train here, or our truck as it actually is, this should now hopefully work. So we get in, it looks like everything has worked. And this hill, it works well enough. It goes around this corner, probably way too fast. Oh my god. But hey, it's working and that's all we needed. Then I can just cover up this hole. That is our truck ready to go. Now, of course, it's going to need to be able to pick up some lava. So I think what I may do here is go and grab myself a bunch of tanks. Which actually, I might have some in my other backpack. Okay, I have 12, but that's not enough. Let's go and get some more. I think I'm going to set up a bit of a tank system outside our power station here. And of course, it doesn't have to be anything wild. I'm probably just going to have a big old tank standing on some stilts. And then there should already be a pipe moving through here because of my tracks. So let's go and find that. And yeah, as you can see, it's not too far away. So let's bring this pipe over. Now in theory, this should start filling up as I have hooked it up, but it doesn't actually seem to be doing that at the moment. I might have to add an extra pump into the system. Okay, there we go. Now it's filling up. And make sure we cover this up again. And then I'm going to need to place in our portable fluid interface, as well as another train station. Now, I'm not 100% sure how this is meant to line up, so again, we'll temporarily place that for now. We put our interface there, dig a hole across. I'm probably just going to have a pipe coming out of the tank and underneath the road. And I've actually set up the pipe to connect to the bottom one as well, so it can go straight in, but obviously start emptying the tank if it needs to pull from it. And I think as far as I'm aware, the fluid interface should go straight through that. So if we get in our truck here and try and pull up to the train station, if it lets me, although I think I've just remembered that I put the train station the wrong way around. I need to make sure it's pointing in that direction. And if we approach the station, okay, we just need to move it one block forward. And now it should hopefully line up. Yep, there we go. The fluid tank is indeed filling up. And luckily, I don't have to really worry about telling it to fill up to a certain amount, because I think I'm just going to purely make this fill up every single time and try and fill up a tank over the train yard. So don't need to overcomplicate that. If we head towards the train yard, see how this works. Of course, I'm going all the way around the roundabout because it's kind of hard to figure out the tracks, but can I not turn left here? Why is it not allowing me to turn left? Okay, well, clearly I need to work on the tracks underneath. I guess I didn't show it yet, but this is the mess of tracks that I have underneath. This is completely over-engineered and unnecessary. I could totally make this better, but I'm not going to. In theory, once I figure out how to get back out of here again, I should now be able to turn into where I want to. Okay, I'm actually having this very strange experience right now where if I try to get off this roundabout, it just doesn't work, period. It'll just keep going round and round and round, and I'm not entirely sure why, to be totally honest. So I guess I'm going to try and set up these bits of track again, just in case there's something wrong with them. Okay, something definitely weird was happening with those tracks, so hopefully this will now work. There we go. And we'll head across the tracks. I have no idea if this is going to look good. Yeah, good enough again. Can't be perfect. And then we stay on kind of the left-hand side here, which I think works the best. So I do want to have a bunch of containers and stuff there. And then there is a turnaround point here. Should work. Yep. Keep just inside. I think I am going to probably fix that corner there, but that's not that big of a deal. But yeah, that pretty much works how I want it to. I just now need to set up the tank over here, the train, which I actually need to bring back. But I think for the sake of convenience, I'm probably going to have it line up with this particular lava carriage, and then have a container here, which I can drop off packages into, and I guess hoist it up into our our chain conveyors to then quote unquote place onto the train. So what I am going to do here is I do want this to line up with this train. So I'm going to have to place down a train station down here, place down another fluid interface, which I'm going to bring through the ground here and add an additional tank here just for storage. Then I also need to actually add one to the train itself because I don't think I actually added one. Let me disassemble the train. I guess just go through to the center point and just plop it in here. Then hook it up to our tank system. Now I'm probably going to need to bring some power over here to actually pump this in and out. So I'm going to need that power anyway to power these chain conveyors. And actually I do already have some power going to the train station up there. So let's try and grab that power from over here. Bring that straight across over to my actual packaging ones. Sure these are all connected up together. And I think I'm actually going to try and bring the power down. I'm actually going to remove my train station so I can bring the power underneath. So now I think in theory, if I reassemble this train, the fluid thing is attached, and if I bring my train in, or my truck rather, you can see the lava is emptying out into the system and directly onto our train, which is exactly what I wanted. And I'm going to also place down a shipping container here. Honestly, it doesn't have to be a huge one. Then I'm going to attach a post box to this and then throw some item drains down and some andesite funnels. And essentially any packages that are inside of our truck should go into this post box and into the shipping container. And I'm going to actually continue this line of chain conveyors and I think try and place in a system up here. I'm going to attach this post box to our proper train. And I did extend the distance for this just for the sake of ease. But if we place this down over here, we do our usual drain setup. And actually what I decided to do was actually bring it down to ground level. Just because that kind of made more sense. I think I'm just going to call this farm train. I don't know if I might have to shorten that based on the postcode stuff. And of course, I also need to attach this to this system as well. And that's going to send packages for now. So I don't need to give it a name. But this one, I am just going to call TY for train yard, as that's going to be a little bit easier for sorting out postcodes and stuff. So now if I come over back to my bowl factory and get a train station also placed down here, I can then attach a post box out here and hook that system up to our chain drive here, which is going to be probably a little bit too close, but that's fine. I think I am just going to call this bowl F. Keep it nice and short. And as a bit of a temporary test, I'm going to place a sign down. I think I need to essentially do the entire address. So bowl F underscore TY underscore farm train. Although that is indeed a little bit too long. Okay, we need some things to make that a little bit shorter. And so now, to remove that stock link and then press this button, these bowls should in theory go into here, which then goes into this post box, and as we can see there's bowls in there. If we grab my truck and bring my truck to this train station, should pick up the package, which it did. And honestly, I love the packages little faces, they're very cute. And hopefully if I just pull up to this train station, package should come off into that system on top of there. Now it's gotten stuck. It's a bit actually, wait, hold on. And the reason for that is because I forgot to add a little asterisk here because it has stuff before the address. So it should now come over here. Here it comes. Frog picks it up and places it into our post box, which is perfect. Now, of course, this is its final destination, so I'm going to have to add more to that address so it can go all the way to the farm. Also, I just realized I never apparently set up this block. I should fix that. There we go. I've come back over to my farm area and I am going to want to place down another train station from my truck here. What I essentially want to do is grab a post box and connect to this train station And honestly, just for now, I'm just going to place it here with a couple of item drains and then put a post box onto this train station and place it here as well with our andesite funnels going in between them. I'm going to call this one just farm. And I definitely plan on building this train station properly at some point, but this will be our temporary fixture for now. What I should also make sure to do is put wildcards before and after farm, because that's going to be important. I'm going to quickly chase down our cow here in this van, take his schedule off of him, and after the restaurant we're going to want to do travel to station and do train station, as that's what I've called it for now. So it should now be stopping at this stop every time it goes around, and if we give that back to our cow, he should start moving again. And if we come back into here, I have set up a factory gauge for bowls as a restocker already onto our item vault here for our vegetable soup, which I do actually need more of. And this one is called soup. So to send items, this is going to be a very long name. I believe it's BF for bowl factory, PY for train yard, F train for the train itself, farm for the farm, and then soup for this particular postbox. And oh my god, that is probably so unnecessarily overcomplicated, but I'm hoping that this will work. So I'm going to literally just ask for 4 and see what that does. Let's head back. So I think I've just realized I need to have the ability to load both areas at the same time, as I currently don't at the moment. So I'm going to grab the chunk loader from our iron farm for now, as honestly I have plenty of iron. It's going to plop it on here for now, and that should keep this area loaded. So I came back from the farm area and I can now see that yes, we have the BFTYF Trade Farm Soup Cardboard package, which is completely over the top. We'll bring our truck around to actually pick up the package. We'll pull up into this station and that should go in. Frog goes up, gets picked up here. And I believe it should now be on this train. It's no longer in here because that's our old package. And on the assumption that it is on this train, let's take our train out to our farm area. And I did hook up some new rails over here up to the rest of the train yard. Obviously I'm going to have to landscape them so they look a little better, but it will do for now. And if we come in here and start pulling up to our train station, the package should switch in between the two systems. Yep, I saw it go. And now conveniently here comes our truck. So we can hitch a ride as it moves by. And it should pick up the package. It does. And as we pull up into the restaurant here, this package should disappear. Although it doesn't seem to have actually done that. Oh no. It got so far. What's wrong with you? That should work. I'm not entirely sure why I didn't. One sec. Oh, I know why. I forgot to add the wild card before it. Okay, so actually, I could put this package back onto the truck because I haven't actually disrupted it from delivering it. We just put it back where it was. And now this time the package should go in. It sure did. And our mechanical arm is now placing stuff into the basin, ready for it to make some more vegetable soup. So yeah, that all seems to be working how I want it to. But that's all I had time for today. I was hoping to get a few more things done with the train yard, including a train depot or train shed, but I've got to edit this video and get it up ready for you guys to watch. So thank you everyone for watching today. I really appreciate it and hope to see you next time. Bye bye for now.